Live from Pyongyang, it is Criterion Deep Dives with Robby Yankish, Logan Lukács, and Mike Mullaney. Hello, everyone. This is Criterion Deep Dives. I have with me former guests of the show, Robby Yankish. Hello, Robby.
Hi. I think I'm the guest who's been on most, so it's very great to be back for a third time.
Yes, Robby's here for a third time, and Logan here for a second time. Hello, Logan.
You might remember me from Empire of Passion.
And I mentioned the capital of North Korea from where we're broadcasting because the film that we watched today is a film called Joint Security Area. It's a South Korean film, but it takes place on the border of those two nations, South Korea and North Korea. So we're going to talk about that one. But first, we just wanted to chat a little bit about a current film that Robby just mere minutes ago finished watching. Robby, do you want to tell our listeners what movie that is?
What movie did you watch, Robby?
I just watched the excellent Nomadland.
Nomadland.
I watched that a week ago. So, you know what? I'm glad you guys gave me credit for having already watched it. I don't know if you guys even asked me.
Well, yes, I just assumed.
I assume a lot of films with you. I assume a ton of films.
I don't have anything else going on, and it's what I would normally be doing. So.
I know that you have a huge crush on Frances McDormand, so I just figured that
not untrue.
12 o'clock on February 21st, or February 19th, whenever it came out. You just press play. So
I did watch it release night.
Yeah. So I saw this movie back in January when some of these theaters were doing like these virtual screening rooms, which is also how Robby and I watched Minari through A24. They had their own screening rooms, but I watched Nomadland, I think back in January at some point, or December, something like that. And it was an awesome experience. It was like one of these things where you have a 4-hour window to watch it. And I was at home at my parents' house, and my little brother was watching it with me, and we were like trying to squeeze it in. We couldn't tell if it was going to like cut us off or not. And it actually like did tell us like, thank you. Like 25 minutes into the movie, it was like, your preview has ended or whatever. And we were just like flipping out, but then we just had to refresh it. But this is like an interesting experience doing that sort of like night of thing and having that window to watch it. But now it's out on Hulu for everyone to see. So, which is an awesome thing.
So I guess my question for you now, Mike, is do you feel like a freaking chump, dude?
For what?
Paid for that?
For paying for this movie, dude?
No, man. I was able to. I had the foreknowledge. I was telling everyone for years how great Nomadland
Well, you are an influencer. But no, I agree. I maybe we can get to our thoughts on these virtual screenings in a little bit. But
have you done one, Logan?
Yeah, I did Minari too.
Oh, okay, got it.
I actually really dug it because like it gives you a chance to like make a night of it. Because I had my in-laws over, and it was like, hey, rate it 7, like we can hop into the stream and stuff like that.
That's what we've been. Yeah,
awesome.
I've been doing that with like a lot of movies in general. Just like finding nights to like cut the lights and I mean most movies that I really want to watch, I turn off screens and try to just like be in it. But
yeah,
it's been fun to like when you literally invest money into these at-home movies to try to recreate a theater experience, even though you're just like in PJs on the couch. But we've been incorporating them into like date nights and just a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there's ways you can do it. Like, for example, you can invite me over and I will like snore in the seat behind you to replicate the theater experience. To have a stranger interrupting
I had that
you.
with 1917 a year ago. Had a man fall asleep, snored, woke himself up snoring. When he woke up, he immediately started smashing popcorn.
Yeah.
During 1917?
Yeah.
It's like such a film you really do. Like Nomadland or Minari, I'm like, again, it's a little slower. There's no explosions or anything like that.
I fell asleep during an Oscar contender a couple nights ago. I know we're like
an unnamed Oscar contender?
An unnamed Oscar contender. Out of respect for the contender, I'm not. No, it's Dear Comrades. It might be one of the international film nominees.
Oh, okay.
And it's good. It's on Hulu too, and I was liking it, but I like could not do black and white slow burn subtitles.
Is it Russian?
It's Russian, and it's like it is exciting. I think I will watch it again, But like,
yeah, the Russians are intense.
So are circuses.
So my favorite. Sorry, go ahead, Logan.
Sorry, I don't know what to say. I'm hijacking this. I'm one Kona deep and I'm going crazy. You guys take it away, Nomadland.
No, I had a thought on the movie night. Like my favorite part of the Minari movie night was I programmed about 27 minutes of previews, which was
that's excellent. That's hilarious.
Which was very fun, but it was about, it was like really not preparing for the movie we were going to watch, because it was like we watched like Godzilla versus Kong preview and like Mortal Kombat, and it was like, oh, this is sick. That was Dune. Like, awesome. I can't wait to see Dune in a theater. And then it was like
green. So you just did all the Warner Brothers movies?
Basically. I mean, that's what I'm excited for.
That's smart. No, I saw this on Chelsea's Instagram story. I saw you playing the organ along with it too, because Music Box has an organist for their showings, and I was like, this is incredible. Like I missed. I think that is the most I missed Music Box, and I've missed Music Box.
Yeah,
a lot.
I busted out. I had to test out about like 50 different organ sounds on GarageBand until I could really find the proper Music Box one. But then I busted out the keyboard and had some tunes. Tried to get some classic movie tunes going through our veins before Minari. The worst part of it was that, and I don't know if this might just be my internet, but we had like 10 minutes of really high quality video, and then it just cut out to like, you too?
Same.
Okay.
I did the same thing.
So this is, I actually like legit have told people to not do the A24 screening, because I was like, because we had some people at work who were also interested in the movie, and me and Dalton and my girlfriend Amber, we were like pumped to like go in on the movie. Yeah. And it was really good quality. I understood they have like a watermark with your information on it, if you guys don't know this at home, that pops around the screen. For like screen sharing, piracy purposes, which you can kind of get over that. But like truly that mixed with the low quality eventually, like 420p, or what is it, 420? I don't know. But like it was 420p, dude.
480p. Like
that was at 420p.
It felt like quarter resolution.
It was gross, dude, and it's such a pretty movie that like, but like when a at home YouTuber can upload like 8K footage, there's no reason for a major distributor to not be able to have a high definition.
I know,
like even just high def, I would have liked, but like I was expecting 4K. Like I thought it was gonna be like.
I think it was 4K at first. It looked like 4K.
I think it was 1080 because like I put my COVID project, I put a theater room in. Like a mini one, like we have a little projector and like the layback reclining seats and stuff like that. But I freaking like I had my Ethernet cable in, and I have like 100 megabytes per second, and it was dropping sometimes. I'm like, this.
And I thought I was like watching like a crappy like screener rip of the movie, and I
from A24.
From A24, but I was just like, this kind of stinks, especially when there's like a precedent for. Yeah, like so many others
streaming.
Yeah, it's like that's been around for a decade, and like
and my Nomadland experience through I believe it was like the virtual cinema at Lincoln Center, which is a theater in New York City, was great. And like I just think as was my Music Box at home. I watched 2 of the Wong Kar-wai films.
Same. I did Music Box home a couple times, and I had no issues with that at all.
Yeah. So like, I don't know.
A24 did freaking time slots too, so it's not like everyone 8 p.m. in the country could buy slots. There's a limited amount of tickets.
I think that was just like some marketing on their end to like to generate.
I thought it was
some
a bandwidth
demand.
issue. Like I thought there'd be zero bandwidth issue.
There might be like
demand.
Maybe like a little bit of a bandwidth issue, but I freaking doubt it. Like A24 is indie darlings as they are. I mean, these are multiple $1 million movies. This is not like a tiny thing.
No, A24 is good. Company. They're real small. There's like 3 people.
Oh,
yeah, it was like
people.
Yeah, they were doing like
multi-million-dollar.
They had to like turn the DVD itself like for every individual screening. So
A24 is like officially as like they have to turn the DVDs over like reels. A24 is like as mainstream as indie as you can get right now. Not saying that's a bad thing about their movie quality,
as
but it's
indie,
like
yeah,
they're like a huge indie company right now, and like
it's
I would say, and I don't even care about resolution that much, but for paying $20, like I'm gonna go on a limb, guys, damn near unacceptable quality.
I want my money back.
No, A24, you can keep it. I like those guys. I want that little kid to have the money to buy some Mountain Dew.
I know, yeah. Like all the special features were really cool. He was so funny.
The chats were cool. All those bonuses were worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but anyways, so that was a little
Nomadland.
disappointing. I'm glad to hear that you guys had the same experience.
Legit feel great to know that. I'm sad that you guys had a bad experience too, but it makes me feel way less crazy.
Yes, same here. But Nomadland is available on Hulu, so you can just go watch it.
Excellent quality.
Robbie, did you know much about this film going in? Had the Nomadland hype train reached you prior to watching it?
Oh, I told Emily, I'm like, yeah, it's about a girl in the '80s who loses her job at a plant and goes across the country. And then
First,
like, the
first shots at Amazon warehouse.
I'm like, maybe I didn't know as much as I thought. I think I like melded like 14 movies in my mind, thinking there was Nomadland, but I didn't know much going into it. Obviously.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious with a movie like this, like what kind of reach it has. Like I wish that we did have numbers, like box office numbers or viewing numbers from like these companies, because like I just wish I knew how popular legitimately like something like Mank or Nomadland or Trial of the Chicago 7, like any of these movies straight to streamers actually are, you know.
Yeah,
Judas and the Black Messiah,
like Nomadland's gonna be a tough one. I think there's gonna be a lot of 10-minute testers being like, let's watch something else, you know.
Yeah.
So
I'd agree with that. Of those ones that you just mentioned, Mike, I think that's the only one. Nomadland has like some in or out moments where like I don't think it's particularly like appalling, but like there's just, I think a lot of people have certain mindsets about people that go the path that she does in the movie that are gonna make, like, and if you watch the whole movie, you kind of see the other side who might object to her career or her life path. But yeah, I would say that. But I mean, overall, I love Nomadland. I thought that was an excellent motion picture.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that like it almost sounds to me like you're making like a like a political statement or not that you're making a political statement, but like that people would view something that she's doing as a political statement. But like I didn't really feel like the movie was that political, like in a good way. Like it just showed the story, I think. But I don't know if that would be as much of a factor as, once again, just like people when you're at home and you have like, you could just watch like 10 episodes of Bridgerton or whatever.
Oh, you're like saying like a different thing, like the content people want.
Yeah, it seems like you have to be maybe like, it seems like the type of thing that you have to be urged on by someone who's like, this is a really great film, it could win an Oscar, like whatever, like versus just seeing it on your Hulu front page and being like, I'll check this out. But then again, like, I don't know, Frances McDormand is something of a movie star. Like, she's an Oscar winner. I think she's pretty recognizable.
I think Nomadland, especially it releasing on a huge platform for free, is like for us all who would have paid to go see it, I think multiply that by a few for the people who would have waited for home video. So I would venture to guess it's, if you, however you equate
for home video
for
the VHS tape
for the
Nomadland.
VHS tape for Blockbuster. But yeah. I think it's probably got a pretty solid reach. But and also like, to clarify some, I didn't mean like so much politically as much as like I think some people just get like grossed out seeing those kind of stories, like, and not like a guttural reaction, just
like the
like,
pooping
I don't
want
exactly, like I don't want to see a woman living in a van for this long. It grosses me out. It upsets me.
Yeah,
and I know like there's a lot of people, especially like in older age brackets, who are like, I just don't want to watch depressing stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like it's done in such a like it's done in like a relatable way almost, right? I don't know. It's not like,
hey, you're preaching to the choir, man. I'm speculating on fake people.
It's not like you're watching like a Harmony Korine film and it's like really like,
yeah, that's true. It is really
people
pretty
or something like that. Like I guess there's some people who you could maybe call trashy in it, but like I also didn't realize until after the film was over that there were people in this movie playing themselves based on
majority, like most.
Yeah, like Snappy or whatever her name is. Robbie just saw it. What's her name? Snarky?
Yeah, something like that.
Sparky.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what's funny is I went to the user reviews for Nomadland after I saw it, and like it's got, as you can imagine, it's got good reviews on Metacritic, and like
what's the user reviews from where? Like
user reviews from Metacritic, I should have clarified.
Okay.
And like it's one of the bottom ones. It's like this doesn't happen to anybody. no one gets poor. Like if you did get poor, it's your fault. I'm just like, maybe that's what I was reacting to in my head of the person who might object to this movie. Is like your bootstrap crowd who don't get how this could happen to somebody. But that's exactly why I like this movie so much, or Nomadland, is that it does seem to like shine a light on like a very real scenario for some people. Like some people get wiped out when people die, and some people hold on to stuff until it's all gone, and then you're just stuck. Like, and it's a lot of people, but you know, most people who make these movies and talk about these movies don't experience it. So I thought it was really like, it was good to see that, because I've had an uncle who's lived in a van for a little bit because he had to.
Yeah.
And he had a moment like at the end of the movie, the character does, where some family members try to pull him out, and he ended up moving into an apartment. But like the dad character, you know, so it just resonated with me, because like we're all so close to that scenario and we don't even realize it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, the idea that she, like, this could be dangerous politically, but I don't think it really stepped into this territory. But this idea that part of her wanted to live this lifestyle, right? But like, obviously it was less than ideal, but there was that craving she had for like being on the road and adventure, which I think like a lot of people understand. It kind of reminded me weirdly of the very final scene of The Hurt Locker, where Jeremy Renner's character is like, I want to go back to war. Like, I hate this suburban life. Take me back to Iraq, baby. Like,
well, one thing also, Robbie, you just saw it. What are your thoughts on Nomadland? I feel like me and Mike are just
No, I enjoy it. I'm a listener now. No, I really like it. No, I just thought, damn, just the shots of, you know, this country, and just like the sunsets and stuff like that, and that one shot from the trailer where she's in that white dress and she's in the Badlands and she has the lantern in her hand. You're like, man, this is incredible. Like, I thought I couldn't. That was one, you know, right up there with storytelling. I think visually, that's just one of the strongest points of the film.
Right.
You know, and we're all from like more East Coast, you know, Midwest, where like that land's super foreign to me. Like, I've only, you know,
the Great Southwest.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, I just thought it was gorgeous, and then her story's cool. Like, I thought immediately just clicking with the Amazon story and of her going there and, you know, doing that temp job. I didn't realize that was real. That's a real thing.
Yeah, the seasonal workers. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
dude.
And they'll pay for your freaking van parking and stuff like that. I'm big fan.
It's
really
weird, man. Like,
film.
I can't talk like a lot about the politics of Amazon, but like there are certain things like that where it's like, they're doing things to help people, and like they're really pushing for like the minimum wage right now, but like also we know like that Amazon has caused a lot of harm. So it's just like, it's interesting that it's even in this film, but it still feels apolitical to me. Like, I don't know, like it and it's weird too. Like, you have Amazon, who owns this other streaming company vying for Oscars, and then it's like Hulu, who's just a similar type company in that regard, who's like paying for this movie. I don't know. It's just like, it's weird seeing the intersection of all those things.
Well, it was also a phrase that she uses in the movie is like, "Oh, no worries, I'm doing Amazon. I'll get you the money back." Like, I'm gonna go do some Amazon and I'll get you your money. It's just like a weird statement, and it's a good showing of just like the different relationships we have with this huge monolithic company, and how it's like, you know, it's good and bad. I mean, it's definitely not neutral. It just depends on what sector you're in. I mean, if it provides people some livelihoods, it's hard to knock, but if it's destroying other people's, if the wake of its economic destruction has led it to this, then it's kind of hard to have
Like, they haven't showed the bad parts of Amazon, like peeing in bottles because you have to meet quotas of scanning items.
But it also didn't look like it didn't look particularly awesome. I think it just showed that that's what I had a friend who used to manage a Amazon plant. Like, this is the shit you did. Like, he was the guy that led the warm-ups in the morning, like that one character.
Oh yeah,
you know, like that's a real job, and like you just manage people who come and go, and you know.
That reminded me of American Factory, like like the chants and stuff that they tried to bring back to America. Like, all right, guys, we're gonna do a quick warm up here.
They're like, oh, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, we're Americans. We don't do that. Robbie, I think that's like a really good point. Like, sometimes, for me, it's like sometimes it's underrated how good a movie is just based on like how much they shoot at golden hour in pretty vistas across the United States. Like that, like those are like so many bonus points for me right there already. I'm like, I don't know what's there's like pretty music, and there's like a car driving through
that
like
piano, and then like when they were in, I don't know if they were in Washington State or Oregon in the last like final part of the film, and she's like on the you know, like the wind is sweeping in and she's on that like, you know, cliff edge near the ocean, and like you have the piano going in the background. Like, this is great. I mean, really, you can't beat stuff like that. I was thinking of some of your footage you showed me from some of your trips, Mike. It's just like, that's just so ethereal and nice to look at.
Thank you, Robbie. I'm on Nomad.
You directed
level.
Nomad.
Yeah, you're directing the Marvel's The Eternals next, right, Mike?
I just looked that up.
Yes.
Yeah, she's the director of that.
Yes. They took her off the project. They said, we're not letting you direct this trashy movie. You got to go do something else pretty again. But no, I'm just kidding. I don't know how the Eternals will be. Maybe it will be as lyrical and poetic as Nomadland.
Okay, I will say I saw it was like an ad on Facebook from a Fandango, or I don't know how this shit works anymore. But just the headline was, it's Chloe Zhao, right?
Yeah,
It's the director of
Zhao.
Nomadland. Zhao.
Yeah.
So Chloe Zhao, and it says, director Chloe Zhao states the Eternals will be as sweeping and beautiful as Nomad. It was like, it'll have the same feel as Nomadland. And I was like, no,
Right.
it fucking won't. Like 1,000,000%. Like, maybe there's one
Except like
handheld.
Angelina Jolie just like looking out at the galaxy like for like a 2-minute shot. or
Yeah,
something
we
like
actually
that.
had Angelina talk with real aliens, and we just let it roll. Like, like that real feeling it's there because it is real. But like, I'm just like, no.
I just want like Reddit to pick that up. Be like, wow, guys, like, hey, we're the Marvel Studio spoilers subreddit right now, and the director said it's gonna be just like Nomadland. Let's do a live watch party.
it's okay to like just get like I mean, if she's
Go
there
make your
for
money, Chloe. You know.
yeah, if she's there for like tone and like she's a great like person at the helm to make sure the movie's moving along great. That's what a huge studio director does. In my opinion, like, I think you could do cool stuff and you could put your stamp on shit, but you can't tell me that Thor Ragnarok looks like any of other Taika Waititi's movies.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I was actually about to bring up that movie.
Like, he put a
because
character in there. Yeah,
I know that like that is a movie cited as like, look, directors can have imprints on these franchises, but like the vast majority of these movies you look at and it's like, no, it's like, there's no real like directorial imprint, in my opinion.
I've heard that Chloe Zhao is also going to do. She's going to play Korg in Eternals. The director always has to play Korg.
Hey, mate,
Hey,
going
mate.
to Earth, aren't we?
Piss off, Ghost.
Well, that's great. I'm glad.
Is this the Nomadland pod? I think this is just the Nomadland episode.
No, I think we should.
We need some clickbait, so you need to put Nomadland in another film? Question mark. And I think like keep the viewers
And an
listening.
equally relevant and exciting film called Joint Security Area. Oh, I thought you guys were gonna say it. With
I was
me.
trying to. Should we try again?
All right.
Yeah.
A great, exciting, relevant film called
Joint
Security Area.
Nomadland.
That was a test.
Nomadland 2.
That was a test to see how in sync our computers are.
Well, that's so Mike can sync up the audio later.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a clapper. So actually, how this came about, how this group of people was organized is that Robbie.
This joint group of people.
Robbie was supposed to watch a movie that I recommended, and I was excited about it. I was like, "Oh, Robbie's gonna watch The Vanishing. This is great. I think he's really gonna like it." And then, like minutes before he starts, he's like, "Actually, Logan recommended this movie that I'm gonna watch, so
Okay.
I'm gonna watch Logan's movie instead."
To my benefit, it was like Vanishing is a disturbing horror movie. We were looking for something a little more like what Logan was recommending.
Right, like something more like Logan would like.
Oh, but Logan said something else.
So after swooping my login credentials, Robbie he just pretended like he was going to watch my movie, and then he said, actually, my good friend Logan Lukács recommended a film, and that movie was Joint Security Area. So Robbie and Emily watched that movie, and then the next day Robbie was like, oh, it's really good, you should watch it. And then so I was watching it, and like in the middle of watching it, I texted Logan because I was like stewing in my head, like I got to get more pod episodes out. So I was like, Logan, I know you wanted to do like some Wes Anderson movies, like, or whatever, like we should do a pod episode. And he's like, oh, I have a movie in mind. It's called Joint Security Area. And I was like, oh, I'm literally watching that movie right now. So, but that was a couple weeks ago, and I actually only watched about half of it. And I was just like, I was a little bored, to be honest. And upon second upon actually watching the full movie the other day, I realized that part of the reason I was bored is because I was just like on my phone and didn't know what anyone was saying. So
yeah,
I really paid attention this time.
These Korean movies. If
Yes.
you don't know what anyone's saying, you're gonna get lost.
It's true. So
the 1-inch bar of text separates so many people from so many amazing films.
It's true.
Wait.
Bong
Somebody,
Joon-ho.
sorry, this is a quick, that just to your joke, Robbie. Somebody told me the other day that they had a coworker who just found out about closed captioning. They're like, hey, I want to recommend a movie to you. It's kind of weird because it's in a different language. But the cool thing is that there
They got
is
this technology.
no, like the person that pitched, like, there's this thing called closed captioning that, like, you can watch any movie now.
You don't have to just imagine what they're saying,
Or, like, know
you
the
can
language.
actually have it translated for you in real time,
Like, with what they're saying. But you were
accurately.
But you were bored. You listened to the movie. You watched it. You liked it.
First I listened to the movie and didn't watch it,
You're
and
like,
then
"Ugh,
next
I'm
I
really
watched
not
the
getting
film
it."
without audio, and then I just sliced them together in my head. Yeah, no, I really liked it when I did actually sit down and watch it. So I was finishing it up, and I was like, all right, guys, when are we doing this? We got to do this. So yeah, joint security area. My first question, Robbie, is that if you were on the Korean Peninsula at the end of the Korean War, which side would you have gone to?
Yeah.
I would be one of the 53 people that didn't pick a side. I think. I think
Some
I'd be,
people
Good
couldn't
answer.
pick a side.
Uh,
people couldn't
no,
pick a
I,
side.
I would definitely be North Korean.
Jesus Christ.
I think it's really. I've always thought it's really interesting about South Korea how they are like the situation of the fact that they were split and that they're the ones that are not like not connected to the mainland. You know what I mean? So it's like the whole border. You can't like.
Yeah.
As far as I know, there's no trains that go out of South Korea into China. Is that Once again, I don't know a lot about this, so
I think you're right.
I'm going on Google Maps right
because
now.
it's
That's what I see
contentious, you know, the relationship is extremely contentious. So like, if you wanted to go to Beijing from Seoul, you'd have to fly presumably, or take a boat of some sort. But I just think it's really interesting. Like, think about America and just like, yeah, you can cross the border into Canada, you can cross the border into Mexico. You don't feel trapped necessarily. Like, living in Illinois, that's like there's tons of land to my east, tons of land to the west, and
Lands on the east, lands on the west.
a little bit to the north, and a whole lot to the south.
Oh, not to the south, man. Welcome to Illinois. Here's your passport.
But I don't know. Don't you guys think it would be interesting, like as a South Korean, like feeling surrounded by water, and then to the north, just like a hostile enemy? Like, wouldn't you feel a little trapped? I don't know.
I think so. I mean, I think that's why a lot of Korean culture, at least what we get and what we get to perceive of it, has like mirrored some American culture in certain ways. Like, they have like a very similar pop culture to us.
Mm-hmm.
They have like a movie going country. They have a very music focused country. They're like one of their chief exports is entertainment. Like, they've become somewhat insular in that, and like I think sometimes movies like this offer.
K-pop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to boil it down to just those basic things, but like I think that is why like they've enriched themselves so much and like have gotten super focused on their own celebrity. Is that like they don't have like as much of a connection. They were allowed to grow kind of on their own and with other influences beyond like the '60s, and I guess like prior to all this, like, you know, when there was unity, they did have rail systems, and now they just have planes, and they're like, I guess we're doing fine with planes. Like, I think they might did not have like those major access points to the mainland. Yeah, I guess I never even thought about that. It'd be pretty like a weird ramification of war we wouldn't even think of, or at least I wouldn't have. I'm sure the people going to war would think of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Logan, how did you come across this film? Because I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, so I and my girlfriend have been doing these full-on director retrospectives. We did Taika Waititi, and then we did Wes Anderson. So we just like watched through all their movies, and we like pre-rank them based on ones we'd seen before, like what we think we like the best, and then afterwards we'll like rank them again. And it's a very like really fun, enriching way to like watch. It's like doing like a book club but with a director, and like it makes us. I think it made us think about the movies a little bit more and like talk about them. And then so I pitched because she really liked Parasite. I was like, well, if you like Parasite, you might like some other South Korean movies. And I really like Park Chan-Wook because I was a edgy teenager who really liked Old Boy. Like that was one of my favorite movies. Still is. I love Old Boy. And then I had watched.
Did you watch that back in the early Netflix days?
Mm-hmm. I watched
the DVD.
I didn't get the DVD, but it was streaming on there. But
Right.
I watched Old Boy. He has the trilogy called the Vengeance trilogy, and then he has like a vampire movie called Thirst. I've seen literally every single one of this guy's movies, Park Chan-Wook, the directors, besides Joint Security Area.
Okay.
And it's technically his first movie, although he has some shorts before it, and he has one movie that he has disavowed. That you literally can't get it anywhere. Like I don't know if he's made sure of it. I just think it was a tiny movie. So to start off the movie rewatch, I was like, well, let's just do it in order. And there we hit Joint Security Area because I just thought, I knew it wasn't a stinker, but I just remember when I was like getting into movies and I was rewatching all this guy's stuff, it looked like the least interesting one to me as a 20-year-old. But like now it almost looks like one of the most interesting ones to me because it's about such a fascinating topic of like the DMZ and just the Joint Security Area in general. I just like I was like, this looks like a dumb war drama. But upon watching it, like it's got like some 2000s tropes to it, but I don't know, man. Like it's like a really highly recommendable movie to me. Like
It holds up so well.
Like I think it's
crazy.
like super entertaining and like so charming, and like I was pretty blown away by it because it's not really like any of his other movies. Like none of his other movies really have this kind of quality to it where I was like, this is kind of like this guy could direct like a Mission Impossible after this. Like I think this guy, like he has like some cool shit going on.
Yeah, I felt like the beginning was a little slow, and in terms of the setup of the investigator coming in, and it felt like I was watching almost like an episode of like CSI or something, to be honest with you. And also I felt like the two like the Swedish and the Swiss actors, those characters were just like really bad actors. I felt like
that was so funny, but like I think that added to the movie. But continue.
Yeah, so that was like that's kind of the setup, but I do think that as soon as the movie gets into like first there are like the reenactments from both sides and both of their stories that they're telling, which has like a little Rashomon flair to it in terms of like we're seeing some different stories play out, which I thought was going to be the whole movie. But then once we get into the extended flashback of actually seeing their story and seeing what happened, I was like really gripped and bought in terms of just like it stayed with it. It didn't like I liked that it didn't keep jumping back to the investigator and those people. Like it just let you stay with that flashback story and let you see these relationships develop in this kind of complex way, right? Like these people can't trust each other at first, but they are really bored and lonely and they start becoming friends. And I liked seeing that sort of like montage play out of them like slowly getting closer and whatnot, and then like throwing the messages across the bridge and then like eventually showing up into the North Korean post. I thought was
the North Korean clubhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
The clubhouse. It was
I thought just echoing that. Just the storytelling, like the way it's set up. It starts off a little slow, and then you cut to the South Korean's guy life, and then you get a glimpse into how these North Koreans people, how they're treated and where they're stationed at, and then you kind of get the pivotal some pivotal scenes like their first big encounter and the North Korean guys doing something redeemable like saving him from a landmine. And the way it bounced back and forth, it was really easy to follow along actually, but it was really gripping because each story, each little tidbit you got, you just kind of wanted more.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also just a general fascination with the Korean Peninsula and the DMZ in particular, and those blue buildings are pretty iconic. I think I'm curious, like this movie was a big hit in South Korea. I don't know how well it was seen or received in like the United States, but like I do wonder how.
I thought you were saying, I wonder how it was in North Korea.
Yeah, I wonder how much. How did the North feel about this one?
Well, they don't get a ton into the politics in terms of the actual political differences, right? Like they don't necessarily take a side in this film. It's a humanistic film in the sense that it portrays all of these people as just, you know, they talk about them being brothers from the same heritage and everything, and that like there's these just political differences that set them up as enemies, but it doesn't really get in other than like what people say, where you have the South Korean general talking about how like there's only two types of people in the world, like commies and people who shoot commies or something like that, right? He says something along those lines. And then the North Korean soldier who mans the post, played by Song Kang-ho, who the dad from Parasite. He's pretty recognizable at this point. He when it comes down to it, and they kind of like talking about like, hey, why don't you ever come down to the South? Like, don't you want to see what it's like? He like gets really defensive, and he talks about like his like devotion to the motherland or to his country or whatever, you know? So, but short of that, it doesn't like get a lot into like, this is who is right and this is who's wrong. Obviously it's a South Korean film. They're all South Korean actors. Like, it's not like they got people from North Korea. We know how shut off that country is. So,
but no, I think to that point though, it really helped. It helped make you not. It helped get kind of your American lens off of stuff for a second, because we tend to like go like North Korea bad, weird, like dumb caricature based on just what we get fed about it, and like, and whether or not that's fair or not is one thing, but those are all people. It's all individual.
Well,
human
I think
beings.
that's fair about the government.
Yeah, about the government, but like the human beings there who are kind of entrapped or just living and don't even know anything different. Like, they're still people. Like, we still advocate for humans as in general, right? Like, we should look out for our fellow person. And these are people who, for all they know, are doing the most noble mission they could ever do, and that's protect their land and their people and their fellow human as well. And in an ideal world, they would indoctrinate everybody in the South to be like them and vice versa, you know? And so to have these two characters that are not condemned, I think maybe their thought patterns are somewhat condemned because it's so like the North does not fuck around in this movie, and the South kind of fucks around a little bit more. And like, I would say that the North is more threatening to me than the South is in this movie, just from the lens in which it's shot. But I would agree with you that like neither side is really condemned or advocated for. It's just really boiled down to two groups of people who wish they could just be buddies. Like, that whole sequence where they're just being pals is so cute.
Right. I mean, you say that about like the power or like the defensiveness of North Korea in this movie, and I mean that's, you know, in part that the country is built on a house of cards in the sense
totally
they don't have that economic prosperity of South Korea, and they on a global scale they are not like they don't have a ton of allies, and they're seen as like horrible when it comes to humanitarian issues. So like, you do have all that when you're a dictator and you are holding up this system, like you are going to be defensive about that and have to hold your people there, right? Like, they don't want, like, I think it's an interesting exchange, like with the I think this moment that I'm talking about happens when they're eating the like chocolate moon pies or whatever, which is like this amazing treat that the South Koreans have that like they don't have in North Korea. And the character Soo Hyuk from South Korea, he's like the main character that we kind of focus on. He's just like, hey, why don't you ever, and he's almost testing him too, because like his partner who starts to get in on it with their little gang of four, like he suggests like, hey, do you think they're playing us? Do you think they're just trying to get us to defect to the North? And so he almost kind of like tests him, the Oh Kyung Pil, the dad from Parasite again. He almost kind of like tests him. He's just like, hey, why don't you ever come down to the South? Like, would you want to come down? Like, you can eat as many of these as you want or whatever. And he gets really tense in it, and he's just like, no, I could never go down there.
Yeah.
And you see that it's not necessarily like equal footing in terms of their priorities.
Yeah, the give and take or whatever.
Yeah. I also did you guys get a sense of any like homoerotic tension in this movie?
I got the sense of deprivation in the movie. Like I think there was a lack of intimacy in all four of them that having new people around fulfilled. Because I just think that there was like a lot of like super strong camaraderie that was born out of like the two guys from the North saving the initial South guys like life.
Yeah,
I think he felt a lot of gratitude. I think he felt like a lot of love for them for kind of sparing him essentially. And I think with that, you always kind of have to like flip the coin as to whether or not they're trying to make a statement about like male just friendships or relationships or whatever that means. But I don't know if I felt like a ton of tension. I just felt like there was like a lot of like more like fraternal bonds going on.
Yeah, like going off of that, like I can see that the South Korean, they're lonely people. I really think they were, but the North Koreans, I just think they never had a childhood. They never had a boyhood. They never had sleepovers, and they had never had
sleepover vibes, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right.
That's like a huge part of it, and they're getting that adolescent.
Like they're like wrestling around and like
exactly
drunk and like
they should have had that at 13, but they're having it 40. With the one older North Korean main character, and it's so cool to watch that delayed adolescence kind of they're coming out like in things that should happen years ago. I thought that was really
I just remember one sequence in the middle there where they were starting to get really like you're saying, the wrestling, and they're kind of like lingering, like holding each other or whatever, and then we cut to the scene where they're standing across each other on the demarcation line, and then we kind of get this close up of like the spit going. The spit going on his foot, and I was like, "Ooh!" Like
felt
vaguely pornographic to me.
So now that you're bringing that point up, I would say yes, I think you get full points if you're writing a paper about this.
Like, is my mind just ruined this much, or is it?
No, because I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm not trying to like debunk or defend or do any part of that with this, but like, yeah, I agree. I think that's a reading of this. Like, I think you can totally see this as like, totally romantic.
Yeah.
Because think about maybe one of the best analogs you can to a story like this of Romeo and Juliet. It's like love and passion. Like they're passionately involved with each other. Whatever that means for these two characters, they are literally risking what they know is certain death. Like none of those characters don't know how serious it is when they get caught. Mm-hmm. Like they're never like, what were we doing? Like they know it's like the one guy tries to fucking blow his brains out immediately once he's about to get caught. Like they know how deep what they're getting into.
Oh, in the interrogation, his friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I think like to risk that and to develop this love to where they're like celebrating birthdays and like they're just like there's one thing to like have a head nod with the enemy or like give a guy a smoke, but there's like another thing to like go over and like sleep over every night and like hang out and fucking pal around. Like
that did also remind me of Parasite too, when the family starts like spending more time in the house, or like specifically the night in Parasite when the family's like all over at the house.
Oh, it kind of like spurs into the final part.
They're like so careless in a place that they shouldn't be, and just like really letting their guard down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's like a really effective part of the movie was that whole middle section. I think is like really the best part of the movie sandwich there, where it's like you really do feel like why this would be such a relief, and like you do want to see these characters have fun and like just chill out. They're so tense all the time. It's so tense. It's so stiff for a while. To see somebody like starting to laugh, I even remember when I watched it with Amber, she even let out like a big like "aww," like the first time that they all hung out, because at that point in the movie you're so ready for some palling around, and it's so unexpected.
I know we needed like some jitterbug, like montage music, like for their sleepover. Like.
But then again, once that one guy shows up and like the bottom drops out on everything, like the other North Korean guy shows up, you as a viewer also know how serious it is. Like you're not taken by surprise either. Like you can only imagine how tense these guys were the whole time they were hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like every time they, cross the border to go to North Korea, and the bottom of my stomach, I'm like, that could be the last. This could be the beginning of the end here of this. Like this is obviously very finite. Like they're both talking about. Like I think one of the cool parts of it was talking about the military life in terms of the guys like, oh yeah, we have to join the South Korean army for 2 years or something like that, and the other guys like really old and has fought abroad and in Africa or something like that.
Yep.
And then he has like a lowly guard duty or something like that he wasn't even feeling very much, but. And they're just like the North Korean guys cannot wrap their heads around like, oh, you only have to be in the army for 2 to 3 years and you're out in 3 months.
Yeah.
And
there's those different points of pride that you can take on either side of an issue like that. You know what I mean? Like you could have that with somebody in America who served versus somebody like me, and just having I've had fun and done this and that and traveled or whatever, and it's just like, oh yeah, but you haven't served your country, or you haven't had those bonds of brotherhood or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You could easily have that conversation in that thing of yeah, you're right, but I'm also glad I didn't. Those two things. There's no matter what your experience is, you can find a way to defend it, and you see that with these two sides in this as well. I always I thought it was interesting, the whole scene where you have the American, it's not just American tourists, but mostly American tourists come through, and they're inside the blue buildings, and they're they're out there and getting led a tour right by the demarcation line. And for me, it was a cool illustration of the fact that obviously there's this really bloody history between the two Koreas on the Korean Peninsula, this war and this really tense truce that they have, essentially living with each other. But also it's peaceful enough at the moment that it is kind of a show. It's something about it is performative. You wouldn't have tourists coming through there if it was actually
war zone,
war zone dangerous. You know what I mean? It's been proven to be safe enough to have these daily tours come through or whatever. But there's also a real tension, and I got that through the relationship between all the characters, and the fact that the fact that they just they end up crossing over, like you said, they know there's a danger, but they end up just crossing over pretty easily, and they're just whatever, why not? This is worth it. This is better to have friends, and also just exchange experiences, right? Think about when you kind of meet someone from a different part of the world or the country, and you just feel a kinship in the sense of what's your story? This is interesting. And it's for all of the characters, they're intrigued by learning about the inner lives of these people that are, typically vilified by their government and by their military. So, crossing borders, making connections, all of that.
In middle school, we had a day called Mix It Up at Lunch Day, where you had to sit with people you didn't normally sit with. You got put in a color group, and you had to go sit with them. Yes. And I think that's a lot like this movie. Because I don't remember anything about Mix It Up at Lunch Day or this movie. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's also funny too, the idea of being at I even remember being in college and being I need to go hang out with that group of people because they're so different. They're so and then you take a step back and you're no, they're not different at all. We're all from the Midwest, mostly white people at this college who have had similar backgrounds. It was just a funny thing to think about. When you think I'm different than that person, and you're no, not really. This isn't.
It always came down to how many people were in your graduating class. Dude, that's nuts.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's crazy. I had less than that.
How big of a high school? Yeah.
I had more than that. Okay,
right.
cool.
It was really weird for me growing up because I went to a pretty small high school. And how small was your high school? Was it 70 people?
Yeah, cool. Do you guys want to eat chicken tenders every day with me?
Wow, we've really bridged the gap here, guys.
Wow, I just love the diversity of this school. But I honestly, like, I thought the movie, like, there's like certain shots of it that I just thought, like, just looked cool. Like, they were like cool for the sake of being cool. Like when he
like the
jumped.
That 70s Show swivels.
Yeah,
Of them hanging out.
Yeah, that was tight. And then like when he jumped out the window and it went like slow mo.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of and just from
Zack Snyder there.
And just from seeing this guy's other movies, like you can tell that he's sort of playing house with some different directing styles, because I think there was some things that were pretty in vogue at the time when it comes to just like The Matrix and Crouching Tiger, like all that stuff was on the come up at that time, like slow mo, sleek stuff, even like the military font showing up on screen with like the
Oh yeah, that was funny.
kind of stuff. Like
James Bond.
I was always like this looks like some weird Mission Impossible 2 shit. And
Yeah, I love the opening with the owl, and then it like the gunshot rings out and it flies away, and then you get the opening title. It's so funny.
Yeah, and I kind of like
Definitely
that.
felt like a cold opening for like The Americans or something like that, like an FX show.
And I like that juxtaposed to these like really kind of like long drawn out slow scenes where we're just kind of getting to live with these characters for a little bit. Like the scene where he gets caught by that landmine trip, you know, that wire, and
when they first meet, basically.
yeah, when they first meet. I know I talked about it earlier, but like that's a kind of like a slow scene. Like it's like really quiet for the first time. You're kind of starting to realize who the character is. You're starting to kind of understand that he's just patrolling, and that this is some real danger, which kind of foreshadows the rest of the movie. Like he's like on a thin line the whole time, and these two guys bail him out, kind of not even super benevolently. They just kind of do it because they can. They're just like,
yeah,
okay, and then it's the spawning of the relationship. But
right.
It almost thematically, if I were writing a paper about this, like that tripwire never went away. The tripwire was still always on that guy's foot.
You're not writing a paper. You're on a podcast, Logan.
Oh fuck!
We have to shake you out of film school.
Throughout the movie, there's a dog that the North Koreans have, and he's shown a lot. And
what do you think that represents?
It comes to fruition in like the one line when, you know, the North Korean, he's very dopey and stuff like that, and he has this dog that always follows him around, and like one of like the higher ups come and like checks on the post, and he's like, "Why do you have a dog?" He's like, "Take it to a butcher already," and stuff like that. And you get like you just get pulled back a little bit because it really comes off a scene right when they were having fun with the South Koreans, playing cards, reloading guns real fast and stuff like that, where he's like, "Oh shit, like yeah, North Korea's terrible. Like they like literally someone just asked to take his dog he really likes to the butcher, and he makes the dog run to South Korea to live."
Yeah, that's a good point.
It pulls you back. Super
I retract some of my statement about them not condemning either side that much.
Yeah, but there's also like once again at the very beginning with the South Korean general who's talking to the main character before the interrogator comes in, and you can see that he has the same sort of like
the disdain,
myopic like military viewpoint of what they're doing.
They're the enemies. They're nameless gray faces. Kill them all. It's a Browns reference.
Yeah, little Browns in there. Yeah, so no, this is great. I enjoyed watching this. I think that this was it took me a minute to get into it, but yeah, I can't think of I still can't think of like a Korean movie that I
was literally gonna say the same thing.
I watched a Korean movie that I didn't like.
Although I do need to.
Korean flicks are sick.
I did like back in that Netflix time that we were talking about. I think I tried to watch Old Boy and was like not into it.
Well, I would say I after Joint Security Area, I think the next week we watched Mr. Vengeance, which is also on Criterion Collection, and it's got some similar DNA, but he starts to get more into his own style, and I would say
more action packed.
It's action packed, but it's also he goes a lot more bleak. Like there's not those like fun, cute moments of like buddies palling around anymore. Like
right.
It's like, because Old Boy as an introduction is really good. It's just like a good movie, and everybody talks about it all the time, and it's got like some crazy twists in it that just make it very entertaining. But at its core, it's super bleak and depressing. It's like that the last scene in one of the last scenes in JSA, where like they kind of Reservoir Dog style pull guns on each other, and like the quick shootout happens, like, and you're just like so bummed because you're like, this is it. I mean, this is when we knew this was probably gonna come, and here we are.
Yeah, you know that people have died already and everything.
Yeah, and that persists in all of his other movies. It's very constant, like that those dreadful moments where you're like, something bad's about to happen, huh? And Mr. Vengeance is full of that, like to the point where I was like nauseated occasionally by like how bleak it got.
And the other thing, this like I think generally I'm giving this film a glowing review. Like, I think it's phenomenal, and I think it's really timeless. I think this is a movie. It's 20 years later, we can watch it super easily and just slide right into it.
Yeah. Right, like the political situation there hasn't changed much. Right.
Which is cool, and I don't think it's going to change in the next 10 years either. I think it's going to be a time capsule for these moments. But bring it back to the whole entire overall film and like the plot. Like, you know, we agreed that we really loved how it went back and forth. And the storytelling was non-linear. It started in media res. I really appreciate that. And then it does make you looking for the shouts out, man. I took a film class.
Point out, he did a good job with that term.
But
Pulp Fiction.
But talk about subplots that you just do not care about at all, but you needed there just for the consistency of the movie. Because like the main girl who's from Korea but grew up in Sweden, so she speaks perfect English, but she spent some time in Korea. And then there's like right at the end of near the end of the movie, there's a big reveal shocker about her father. It's just like so forgettable, and like maybe it didn't, like, we're not Korean or something like that, like, and
we're not.
I don't think we're
just
Korean.
Just to clarify, we're not.
Yeah, this is an audio podcast, but it was just interesting. Like, that just didn't hit for me at all, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go back to the people I like. And so, you know, that was just so.
I agree that in general, once again, just everything with the, like, I liked the investigator to an extent. The woman,
right?
The two blonde dudes, I thought were bad actors, and they didn't like serve a ton of purpose.
Like that guy who's like chopping the pipe. Let me tell you a little story about the It sounded like a Metal Gear Solid cutscene. I know Robbie's gonna get that, but like it's exactly what it was like.
Wait, why wouldn't I get that? What do you?
Sorry, do you watch? I'm sorry, I'm taking it back.
Do you watch the video games?
Do you watch the video games, bro? But I would agree with that, Mike. I think like part of to an earlier statement I made about how I thought it enhanced the movie. Like there's pieces of that I think are really palatable, like cheesy, like setup, exposition, dumpy type characters who like really help the audience like understand what's going on, because they have to talk in English to people going like, so we're going to interrogate these people about the things that just happened. Here are some of the things that just happened. It's like, yes, these things have been happening for years here. And, like, you just have to go, like, okay, cool. But, like, you know, to the keen observer, maybe this would be a more artful movie told linearly, you know, just as a short film. Like, it could have probably
No, I think it worked. It just was
No, I think it works, too. But I think it works, too. But I'm just saying, like, I think, like, the sequence of... I'm of the opinion, like, that most of these movies that can be shown so, like, visually, like, without even any dialogue, like...
Yeah, you don't need that expositional dialogue.
Like you could have this movie and like have a really impactful like 10 minutes almost of like character from this side meets character from this side. They're not supposed to be together. They start hanging out. It gets too deep. Bottom falls out.
I even prefer did this movie do this? I forget, but I even prefer the title card or like the like plot card that just like the movie starts and it just like tells you what's happening. And so just you read it, it tells you what's happening. And then
the Star Wars
scroll. You don't need like a character. Yeah, the Star Wars scroll, but like there's other examples of this, but like you don't need a character to say all that to you, and then you can just go right into it, right?
I think most movies would benefit from a black screen that says, and then this character did this, and they don't even have to show it. Then they get to the exciting stuff.
Yeah, like why don't we bring silent film cards back? I don't want to hear anyone talk.
I'm sick of talking, man. Honestly, like, this isn't too hot of a take. Like, and I don't really believe this, but like sometimes, yeah. Like, I think there's like a lot of like really little care put into dialogue sometimes, to where it's either too much of an exposition dump or it just so doesn't matter. You could just have music playing over it and just prettier shots, like you guys were talking about with Nomadland and Golden Hour, and I would get it. Yeah. Like I would say even Nomadland really succeeded in like really not telling you a ton about what was going on. You just got to see it, and it's like,
yeah, but this movie does a good job of that once we get to the main characters.
Yeah,
like,
you're right, mate.
They don't say everything that's on their minds, but I did really like the setup of the investigator, these characters that we don't know or trust. We see their stories, and I like playing them back in this sort of like it's sort of like heightened music and cheesy action style of like each of their own tellings of what's happening. And then once we start getting to the real thing, it's just like, oh yeah, there's more than meets the eye here. And I like that idea of like, you know, in real life, like how often do you actually get the real story of what's happening behind the scenes? Like not very often. Like you probably, when you have two different sides telling a story, they're probably both lying to some degree. So I think it is a cool way to tell the story and to set that up, especially when you're looking at this political situation where we know that there's tons of propaganda on both sides and, you know, whatever. So I'm actually sorry, I did not just mean to both sides, the Korean conflict, but so I take that back about the both sides, but you know what I mean. Just the telling and the patriotism and everything.
Well, you take it back. I'm gonna double down on it.
I'm actually in Premiere right now. I'm re-editing the film with title cards.
Oh, wow.
It's gonna be
Robbie,
very
thanks.
good.
The Robbie cut is actually live right now.
Link that in the pod. I did
Release
ask
the Robbie cut.
I did ask these two when we were scheduling the recording of this to pick a side in the Korean conflict, and Logan was very eager to choose the North, so just want to put that out there.
Well, you know, beautiful leader has a lot of good plans that you guys just misrepresent. Okay, okay. I was hoping it was going to be like a Korean stoner flick for joint security area. Because like you know the joint security around this area.
You're saying it wasn't for you? Because I mean, I was already lit up at that point.
Hell yeah, buddy!
I watched it in 420p.
Call back. But have you guys ever listened? I think it's a This American Life about the filmmakers who were who's the current leader of North Korea? Is it Un or Il?
Kim Jong
Un.
So I think Kim Jong-il was a huge fan of cinema from across the country, and he was like always super confused why his movie sucked. And so he kidnapped filmmakers and forced them to make movies, and a way that they like got little escapes from their life was by going out and like, because he would pay for them to like shoot in Europe, and like they would write movies intentionally outside of Korea so that and he like fully trusted them. Like that was like one of the few things he had total trust and security in, was like their culture and like stuff like the film that they could make, and then they just kind of used it to help plot their escape. Just a little plug for that pod, but I just think it's
I think I actually started reading the book that the podcast was based on, and I didn't make it very far. It didn't grab me enough. So. but that's just a me problem.
But maybe audio form for 45 minutes would. But it is really fascinating.
I listened to the podcast. It's really
great, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been what they were plugging then on the pod, but made me think about just like misunderstandings in North Korea and stuff like that. Because even part of them were like, you know, enamored by how much love and affection that they got from North Korea to like make movies, and like how much like respect that they got, but then how terrible it was at the same time.
Yeah. I was on a podcast with Rod when we watched It's a Wonderful Life, and I made maybe an ill-advised comparison of Frank Capra to like a Leni Riefenstahl and like a propaganda master of World War II for America, because he made those types of films, and it's kind of the same thing. But it's interesting to see those that fascination with that fascination with filmmaking and stardom, and like obviously ties into like so many political leaders' ambitions and like why they're even in office in the first place.
Well,
that was a big part of that. Like those films exist and they're crazy. You know what I mean? So
it makes me laugh because it's like for being like a dictator and, you know, widely perceived as like an awful leader, you know, to have this propaganda machine internally going like we're awesome, like we're sweet, we got everything everybody else has got, like don't even worry, don't trip dog, like we're sweet. But our movies do suck. Like I don't know why our movies suck.
Like
so
an
bad.
honesty about that. Yeah,
Like I was like, I wonder what we should do about
IMDb
that.
is not really about us.
We should probably kidnap good people. It's like,
why do we
God
have
damn.
no films on Netflix? This is an
It
atrocity.
just seems like a Star Trek plot where it's like this country has been formed entirely on motion pictures.
Dude, it sounds like an Argo type flick they need to make now.
Dude, we
Yeah,
gotta
right?
make Argo again.
The reverse Argo of like
What's a reverse Argo? Reverse Argo is like a movie made in earnest to save no
reverse
one.
Argo is you kidnap a director to bring to their
Reverse Argo. Yeah, we're just making a movie to help. no one.
reverse Argo is yeah,
Any other movie?
no Oscar ambitions. Just
That's good.
great. All right. Well,
All right.
I'm glad that we could have our two North Korea experts on this podcast. I am always appreciative of the movie recommendations, Logan. So glad to
Heck yeah.
have you both back on, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you for
Awesome.
having us,
Okay.
Mike. This is great.
Chaos magic. See you guys.
Chaos Magic.